I'll turn it over to you. So some of you guys are currently members of our Next Level Coaching program, which is a program that we do. Next Level Coaching is a company that's outside of Summit Funding. It's mostly Summit Funding loan officers inside of it and realtors that work with realtors. It's a program for people to have a community of like-minded other people. The thing that I think is missing most in this industry is we're all soldiers on an island by ourselves, and it doesn't work. I don't know how to teach loan officers how to do loans in their pajamas from their house, and I don't know how to teach realtors how to do transactions from their pajamas in their house. I think that you got to go to work every day. I think that you got to dress up every day, 4 days a week minimum. I think you got to treat this like a career and a job. As I look at my buddy Bradley, he's dressed professionally, he's ready to go to work. And I think that it's impossible to have your mindset not match your wardrobe. Your wardrobe is your mindset. And so if I could impart one thing on you guys is to look at Bradley in terms of his professionalism. I met him through Marjorie, and I just trusted Marge because me and Marge worked together for a long time, and she has a really big heart. That's why I chose to work with her. That's the number one reason is for her, it's not all about money. She wants to make money, don't get me wrong. But she has a very, very big heart. She has a little bit of hippie in her. And just so in case you guys don't know, my first car I ever bought was a Volkswagen bus. I'm a hippie. I could easily be living at the beach and eating breakfast at 7-Eleven with those little burritos you put in the microwave easily and be happy. But I'm competitive and I fell into this job. Anybody on here that fell into this job, you should be thankful. We are super lucky. So she introduced me to Bradley, and he came to one of our events and taught some breakouts and got rave reviews. I've had some conversations and one-on-ones with him. Bradley, I appreciate you. I think that you also have a big heart and you have a lot of drive and you have a nice way of saying that you don't put up with the BS. My way of saying it's a little rougher. Yours is a lot more warm and cuddly, which I love about you. And so Bradley's going to share, and Marjorie is going to tell you a little bit more about his numbers and all that good stuff. I just wanted to be on to thank all you guys for joining. Remember, whatever Bradley talks about, if you want it or you want more collateral about it, you got to contact your Summit Funding loan rep, and they will give it to you, or your Next Level loan rep. Heather. Okay, go ahead, Marjorie. I turn it over to you, my queen.
Oh, thank you, Jimmy. All right, so welcome everyone. 2025, let's go. I'm super excited. This is a honor, honestly, and a joy of mine. So Bradley Hanson is a really good friend of mine. I will tell you, best student I ever had. I tell everyone this, and it's true. He is an implementer of implementers. So when you say, hey, we're going to do this, or he says, I'm going to make these phone calls, he does it. There is no telling him twice or three times. It's done. And so he has taken systems. He's very good at rinse and repeat. Like he grabs things from people, he implements them, and then he takes them to another level. So I'm ecstatic that he is coaching with us. I'm ecstatic that I get to work with him. His numbers are incredible. He is a super strong listing agent. His goal this year is 200 sales. I firmly believe he will hit it. He has a very strong team. He is very systematized, and he's just a great person. Super competitive, but nice. And I'm excited for you all to learn. His marketing is fantastic. He is just someone who is very consistent. He doesn't fall off based on emotion. Things can happen. We all have to process through them. But I'm ecstatic for you to learn from him today. So, Bradley, you are going to take it away.
Awesome. I appreciate the introduction. Thank you for joining us. As Jim said, I will just fully disclose that I am not an actual professional speaker. I am a human with a big heart and a drive for excellence. And today I'm excited to talk about marketing, because if you are in our industry, whether you're a lender or a realtor, it's all about who has the biggest web. And of course, you have to be in front of everyone, whether that's face-to-face, or you're on the phone. And so what I was hoping is that we could kind of just just have everyone, because, being in front of the biggest audience means you have to put yourself out there. And there's nothing like hosting a Zoom with a bunch of black screens. So if you are willing, and I think the first step of marketing is being willing to put yourself out there and commit to just being in front of as many people, even if you don't know them, right? You can't build new relationships if you're not breaking bread, or you're not calling, or you're not, getting in touch with new communities. And I think that when it comes to success, it's all about being uncomfortable in the environment that, we thrive together. And so, if you're willing to put your camera on, I think it'd be fun to see you. I'd also love to know, if you're a lender or a realtor, there's obviously the chat box questions, like Jim said, anything that you want from, just a quick conversation, or maybe you want some collateral pieces. I'm an open book. I'm happy to share anything and everything. Obviously, the more that we share, the better we can win individually and together. So I want this to be kind of interactive, right? It's a mastermind at the end of the day. So I don't want to talk the entire time. I'd love for some people to share some tactics or, tips that can help make everyone better, right? And that's kind of the goal. We're all taking an hour of our time. And so I'd love to just kind of be open to having conversations, and of course, just share. So as you guys know, we're really hoping to kind of just talk about mastering your real estate marketing calendar. And really, if you're a lender, it goes for you too. So at the end of the day, I know Marjorie said I'm the best student. I take that as a compliment. But at the end of the day, the only reason that I have scaled my business over 8 years is because I am a master implementer, and I am committed to taking small steps with intention and doing the same thing over and over and over like clockwork. So I don't make things complicated. I like simple systems. I like processes, and I like to track and measure. I think with marketing in general, you've got two things. You need to know who you're marketing to, and then you need to track and measure your marketing to see if you're actually spending the right amount of money to get the reward that you want. And obviously some things are quick spends, and other things are long-term nurtures. And so really at the end of the day, I just want you guys to be open-minded to some of these things. Obviously, I'm not reinventing the wheel by any means. I'm sure that if you've been in the industry for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you've heard some of these things, but you're just probably a bit slower on the implementation, or you didn't give it enough time for the seeds to kind of plant. Cool? So some of the things that I think are really important, there are really 4 different things that I kind of lump my marketing to, and we can call it 5 if you will. So your online presence, I think at the end of the day, there is a huge opportunity for you to kind of leverage websites. If you're not on Zillow.com as far as a free profile, homes.com, Trulia.com, realtor.com, and you don't have a good agent site, everyone is online. And if you're not online and you can't be found by going on Google and your profiles aren't popping up, then you don't exist. And I think everyone right now, more than ever, has either fear or they're uncertain. And if you are an agent of choice, you need to be showing up on these bigger platforms where the consumer is at. If they're not on these 4 sites and they're not on social, and you're not on social media, you don't exist. And if you don't exist, they're not calling you for real estate services, whether that's a loan or a house, whether it's buying or selling. I also think that a lot of people set these Google business pages up and they don't actually take the time to post on them to get their clients. A lot of us just go to Zillow.com and have our clients put our reviews and testimonials. We really need to focus on putting our reviews on Google. Anything that you blog, anything that you write, any housing forecasts, whatever the case is. Marjorie, you're going to pass that dog around.
Sorry, my best friend just brought a puppy in and I have to pet the puppy. Sorry.
I love it. But really, you should put all of your client testimonials on Google.com. And I think, again, if you're a lender and or a realtor, that's where people are searching when they go to look you up. As far as, social media strategies, I think that every single one of us should be, again, engaging in social media. I know that it's scary. There's pros and there's cons, but at the end of the day, it is the best tool besides our individual voice to stay top of mind. And so, I know some people don't love TikTok, some people love YouTube, some are more educational, some are way more fun. Like for me, you got to be on all of them. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, they all have different consumers. They all have different, as the way that I kind of see it is they're all individual databases, right? And if we need to, connect with headhunters or companies that are restructuring or relocating and you're not on LinkedIn, you're not getting that opportunity. And maybe you don't post on it every single week or every single, day, but you can commit to doing something every month. As far as email campaigns, I'm big on leveraging email. I think that people are afraid that they're spamming or they're sending too many things. For me, I really use this as a tool. I send every single person that's a past client, a business owner, and or someone from a sphere of influence, community relationships, whatever the case is, they're getting 4 emails a month from me. So I send out a monthly housing update by the 5th of every single month. They get any holiday that's happening in the month, they'll get an email on that. They get a monthly home valuation on their property if they own home, or if they own multiple homes, there's one for every single property sent. And then they get an invitation, whether that be a past client event, maybe it's a happy hour, maybe it's an educational class that we're using to, again, build deeper relationships with the clients that we're serving, and of course, new clients that we're trying to, generate. Events, I think events are a no-brainer when it comes to sending emails. Obviously, that's a way for people to get a nice video, and I think it's just a no-brainer when it comes to another good reason to send an email. I will say that I'm really big on print marketing. It reflects in my P&L every single month, but at the end of the day, it's one of the best tools inside of my marketing plan. And whether you are sending print mailing to past clients, your circle of influence, or you're doing farming, I think at the end of the day, the message that you're sending has to be specific to the demographic. So like if you're, I think a lot of times when people do marketing, they just take one piece and they send it to all demographics. Well, if they live in a 55 and up community, they're not going to need the same messaging that maybe somebody's going to need if it's a brand new construction community, right? Or if somebody's living in an older neighborhood from the 1940s, they probably need renovations and repairs and need more of solutions that are kind of oriented towards helping them increase the home saleability and maybe getting the highest return on investment for whatever repairs or modifications they need to make to sell. I'm big on farming. Marjorie knows this. I farm 8,000 homes. Now, it's taken me years to get to 8,000, but at the end of the day, I think that farming is a great tool if you do it with discipline. And that means that you have to have multiple different ways to farm as kind of a layered approach, whether that be mailing, popping by, door knocking, community events, right? But I think you have to start small, and it has to be manageable where you're consistently creating an opportunity. And then once you dominate that, then you add a neighborhood, and then you add another neighborhood, and eventually you figure out what you're going to do. I like master plan communities. So like example, areas that have 2,000 homes, right? Lots of great parks, community events, where I can be the mayor of that neighborhood and I go big. And that's some of my success. So if you're looking for good farming pieces, I'm big on, again, making a printed housing update of what's happening with that specific neighborhood. If anyone has heard of Real Marketing for You, it is the absolute best marketing for neighborhood statistics, and it's hyper local to the neighborhood. So it's real, like I'm going to be real with you. 4, the number 4, and then marketing. I have found that is the most affordable piece, and it's plug and play. Every month it looks different, but it still is aesthetically matching the brand and the messaging and your services. And obviously every month there's an opportunity for home valuation. It is the absolute best piece that I've ever come up with. To give you an example, we sell a home every 3 days, and last year 15 listings came from this specific piece. So it works. I think when you're also thinking about print marketing, right, like that's postcards. So for me, Marjorie mentioned I'm a listing agent at heart. That's the biggest piece in my business. With everything that happened last year, that's something that I just said I'm going to commit to just doubling down on listings. And so whether it's a just listed postcard, a just sold postcard, a pending postcard, a client testimonial postcard, you have to have systems in place that you can use. And so I'm big on doing that. I'm also big on door knocking for every single open house around a listing. Like that is marketing to me. And then I really focus on, to my database, 4 oversized postcards. When I say oversized, that means that the mailman physically has to wrap the small mail around it like this to get it in the mailbox. So it has to be big. It has to be a standout piece. So I do 4 of those a year. They're specific about service-oriented offerings that I employ with my clients. So like example, if you look at our website of our service pages specifically, it's all about the full service listing guarantee. So we cover the staging, the cleaning, the pre-inspection, the 40 photos, the drone, the video. The clients that we're targeting need to know that. I will upfront the cost to help somebody increase the saleability of their home. So again, if there's an opportunity for us to make some improvements, not charging interest and fees, and that's a need that they have, but I can fill it, I need to get that into neighborhoods that maybe might be a little bit rough around the edges or have some deferred maintenance throughout the years. The other thing could be, just a nice big oversized QR code where they can scan and determine their home value. None of this is out of the box. It's just tracked, measured, and consistent. I'm big on events. I love to have fun. I will be the first one to admit, and Jim, plug your ears, I don't love calling, right? I love to be face-to-face with past clients. I love to be in, chambers, Rotary, at the schools. I like to be in the community. I think it's easier to build real, genuine, authentic relationships that are outside of the business when you're deeply rooted. And so when you have events, it's a reason to call, it's easier to call, and it's not salesy, right? And then when they come, they can see you in business, and it kind of correlates to a better outcome with a little bit more of a slow nurture, and it's less salesy. So, I do big quarterly events. Specifically, we do in the fall a pumpkin patch event where everyone gets free pumpkins, not again out of the box. We do a Mariners spring event where we, have the deck and we have outdoor games. We do happy hours. We do a really cool ugly sweater party in the winter where we collect toys for Children's Hospital, and that's probably our biggest event. Movie in the spring. You just have to have leveraged events where you can call your past clients, your VIPs, and your sphere of influence to really kind of get them to get into person, right? And so those are some of the, like I said, those are really the 5 kind of pillars of my marketing plan. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to identifying your target audience and some of these niche markets, right, whether you're going after investors or maybe you want to be helping the downsizers or maybe you want to focus on 55 and up, you really have to decide and just fully commit to one, who the person is and what is the need that you're trying to fill. Right? So I don't really, I love helping the downsizer, right? They think I'm adorable. They like that I have more solutions. They enjoy, that I'll take care of the heavy lifting. But I love the trade up buyer, I want somebody that has a departing residence that wants to make a purchase. It's a 2-for-1. Every single community that I farm is a neighborhood that has a smaller square footage where they're having a growing family, and I know that at some point they're going to trade out of it. That's the demographic that I go after. Now, whatever works for you is going to be your choice, but I think you have to commit and you have to understand that whether it's a past client or you're farming or you're going after a specific price point, you just have to know what your messaging is and who the demographic is. I think a lot of us say we have a database. You can't market to people if you don't have an actual database. And a database isn't on a yellow piece of paper that's, magnetized to your refrigerator. Like, it needs to be in an Excel or a CRM. It needs to be orderly. You need to know every pertinent detail about them, their kids, their anniversaries, their birthdays. And that's all part of marketing, right? Like, and I think a lot of us say that we have it, but we really don't have it. If you're a real estate agent and the person owns a home and they're not getting a home valuation, you're not doing your job. And I think, again, the reason that most of us don't have that set in stone is because we're waiting to ask them if we can do it. And it's like they're counting on us to provide them with value and expertise. And if you don't do it, somebody else is. I'm big on CRMs. I think that CRMs are a great tool. I will tell you, I use Follow Up Boss. I think that it works well with a lot of other platforms as far as integration. I think that, it's easy to set call list and print farming list, and it's just a nice place to have, follow-ups and reminders and tracking. At the end of the day, the more that you automate your systems and processes, it's the easiest part for you to scale. I think a lot of us go too wide when we're starting on marketing, and we need to hone it in. Like, for me, 90% of my business comes from a 3-mile community. Now, if you could work a 3-mile community every single day, that would be a blessing for your work-life balance. I'm committed to focusing on 3 miles. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll work around it. But at the end of the day, I've built it right here. And so I go deep with what I have. But I know every neighborhood, every park, every builder, every turn and burn. Like, what's the turnover rate for that neighborhood? Like, you have to be the specialist. And I think some of us haven't taken the time to really hone in on what we're good at, so that when we do get the calls from the marketing, whether, again, it's print, digital, social media, whatever the case is, you got to show the consumer that you're the educated source. And I think that's where I win every single year, is because if you go to any social media platform or you receive anything around me, it's hyperly focused on Maple Valley, Washington. Now, I think that there's tons of opportunity right now in the marketplace. A lot of us are not using video. I know that, on the coaches call this week, Jim talked about face-to-face and voice-to-voice. And I think that is true, and it truly does need to happen more than ever. I think that we've had a blessing this year, and obviously, and unfortunately, a lot of people have left the industry, but at the end of the day, cream rises to the top, and we've got a lot of opportunity to get in front of more people. And I have struggled with video when I first entered into the industry, of being concerned about what people think of me. At the end of the day, the people that want to work with you, they are going to love you for who you are. And if they don't love you, the way that your voice sounds, or the way that you carry yourself, or that maybe you have big hair like Marjorie and that you're a hippie with tattoos, like whatever the case is, those are not her people, right? I have people that maybe don't align with me, and I'm cool with that. But at the end of the day, if you want to be influential in your community and you want to market to the largest audience, you have to be willing to surrender to video. And video doesn't have to be scary. Start small, Like, focus on just putting yourself as an intro and an outro on every one of your listings. Maybe you can't talk for 3 minutes about the property, but you can do the Vanna White at the beginning and the Vanna White at the end, right? Could you maybe focus on some things that you're passionate about as far as educational pieces, like 3 ways to restore your credit by 50 points in the next 30 days? Or maybe you talk about what neighborhoods are up and coming. Maybe you're talking about the best ways to get pre-approved. I mean, I think a lot of us are so fearful that we're going to say the right thing, the wrong thing, or maybe there's a colleague on here that's watching our videos that maybe is more educated or does more volume. Who cares? Your consumer that is watching the video, that's in relationship with you, that's following you, doesn't know that Marjorie's watching every piece of content that I create, right? And so I think that you just have to really surrender to the process of like just shooting the video. You know, I have a team of 10. I would say at least half of them will shoot content and they will never watch it. And if that works for them, it works for them. But they are still sending the video to their database. Every single week, they shoot something. And I think you just have to surrender to it. I think if you want to talk about market statistics, that's a big thing that I do. I just put out a video of like my 2025 housing forecast. I have it in a written form. And then also I put it out. I don't know what that is, but
Hey guys, make sure you're all muted. So if you're not on mute, please do it because it might be someone's phone.
So, you know, again, I'm putting out relative content to Maple Valley because I'm passionate about it and I'm the agent of choice, right? And in order to be the number one agent, you have to show up like the number one agent. And so for me, I just put out, like I said, a 2025 housing forecast that's specific to Maple Valley, right? You can do that every single month. A lot of our brokerages and or companies create great educational pieces. You take that, you take the pieces you want, you articulate it in the tonality that you desire. But at the end of the day, you know, I think people need to know what's actually happening in real estate. And again, it goes back to if you don't do it, a bigger company is going to do it, right? You can also go onto some of these big companies like homes.com, Zillow.com, and they put out relative information, right, that you can repurpose with your own tonality. I love client testimonial videos. I think there's nothing more beneficial and impactful for somebody that's thinking about hiring you. If your clients are willing to sit behind a screen, whether it's an iPhone or a production, you know, video, at the end of the day, that takes time. And I think if they're willing to take the time to share their story to another consumer, it is 10 times more impactful than it is if you were to just literally have them write a paragraph about how awesome you were. I also think that the tonality and their mannerisms, if you can get them to talk about the industry and profession that they work in, I think that that helps the other consumer on the other end that maybe is in tech or maybe works for Microsoft or Facebook. If there's a connection there, that just kind of leads into that triangle of trust. I also think that like with video, you can have some fun. I'm big on fun. A lot of the stuff that we put out, I have had fear of like, oh my God, someone's going to think we're unprofessional. But at the end of the day, the behind the scenes, the day in the life, I mean, it's all relatable. You know, you're not going to see me dancing or doing any crazy trends, but we can definitely still have some mic'd up versions of like, you know, a real conversation that I'm having at a team meeting where I'm, you know, laying into them about how we need to convert better at open houses and, you know, build better connections with the consumer. But I think at the end of the day, if you're not doing video, you are a secret agent. And like, you can't, it's 2025. It just doesn't, I don't know, it kind of shocks me. So I'd love to just kind of like open it up real quick. And obviously I want to get into, you know, how to build the actual marketing calendar and kind of the systems and processes that I use to employ the things and how I track and measure and those types of things. But before I kind of get into that, I'd love to like, does anyone have any questions on anything that we've talked about, or maybe some great ideas that you can kind of throw into the conversation? Chelsea, how about you?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Do you have, I might have missed this part. Do you have QR codes on your signs that say, know your home's value here? Is that what you're doing with the QR codes?
We do QR codes on our perma flyer that takes them to our link tree, and on our link tree, they can go and do a home value. So the reason that we have the QR code that goes to the link tree is because our link tree displays every single active property for sale. So if they're sitting outside of 123 Main Street and that's not a perfect fit, then they can go to the next one.
Okay. And then you said you received 15 listings last year from your marketing, and that's just a combination of the postcards, just listed, just sold. Is that a combination of all of that?
Yeah. Real Marketing for You is the one that goes to 8,000 homes, the database, and then some other communities. I just do a quarterly postcard, right? And so the 4 postcards that we do is like January is a reflection of all of the houses we sold the previous year. So kind of an end of year stats of units, list price to closing price ratio, number of days on market, and then our average price point. And then obviously there's a call to action for their 2025, new home value. And then we'll do the full service listing guarantee, which of course showcases services which you know about. I'll do a market ready postcard that really goes over the process and the system that we use to upfront the cost to help increase somebody's saleability. And then the other one that I'll use is just a, it can be a testimonial. It's a flex one. I just kind of leave opportunity because I think when you're doing all of these things in your regimen, like you got to have some space for opportunities. Like, last year there was this awesome NAR settlement, right? Like that was something that I don't think any of us were really waiting for. And so I had to get something out that was relative about that, right? And so I kind of give myself some flexibility.
Brad, there are a couple questions in the chat I'm going to read you. One is, what is your go-to tool for home valuation emails?
Yeah. So our brokerage actually has an integrated tool that is inside of our website. So we don't outsource like HomeBot. I would tell you that if I didn't have something with the brokerage, I would go to HomeBot.
Another question is, what is your advertising budget?
I think that it has to be, I'm not going to share that just because it has to be specific to the amount of money that you are bringing in on your pay log.
Yes, and your profit and loss. And someone also did ask, hold on, I don't want to go backwards.
I also think too, like when it comes to allocating costs, like I think, when I meet people, a lot of times people are saying, oh, well, like I'm just going to take X amount of money and I'm going to divide it by 4 quarters. Like you could do that, but I don't know about you guys. My business is really seasonal. So like December, or I should say Q4 and Q1, I spend way more money than I do in Q2 and Q3 because 1, I have more leads during those months, but 2, I want to stay top of mind during the 4th quarter because I want to beat the spring market. And it's like, these big retailers, they end up putting out Christmas in September so that they can get the sales before it even starts. Like we kind of have to beat the consumer where we're at. And so I spend a little bit more in those quarters than I do the other quarters. Now, there are some reoccurring costs and targeted ads that we're running, online and whatever the case is. But for the most part, you got to figure out how you want to spend it. And again, you have to track and measure.
So another question is, what is the message you send to homeowners? How many times a year?
The message that I send to homeowners. Well, I mean, go ahead.
I think it's maybe for like, what are you sending to your past clients? But I think you had mentioned you'd gone into them a little bit, but how often? So I guess, so Aruna, what I'm not sure of is if the message you send to homeowners, if that is for farming, cold farming, or whether that would be for your past clients. That would be different.
Hi, this is Aruna.
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning. The message on the postcard when we are sending to the homeowner what we are sending every time, I've been trying to do the postcard before too, but don't know, really what kind of message you are supposed to be sending every time and how many times.
I mean, I think that you have to decide what the message is because the neighborhood, the demographic, whatever's going on in your market, right? Like you're the expert. You have to decide what that messaging is. For me, the real marketing for you piece that I'm obsessed with is a nice booklet that is very, very well publicized, but it really talks about trends, market time specific to the neighborhood. So like example, I went on a listing appointment last night. She gave me the key when I walked in the door. She said, you know this neighborhood like the back of your hand. You have the most listings. Here you go. Where do I sign? Like, now, granted, I still did my whole presentation, but the reality is that the only reason that she feels the way she feels is because I'm consistently mailing to her every single month with this specific piece. So she believes that those listings are my listings. Now, they are, but they're also not my listings too at the end of the day. But she doesn't know that, right? And so you have to show up with whatever messaging you're going to be, right? And then you layer in other pieces. So I mean, I think if you don't know what to say, you got to start with the sales. And if there aren't sales, then you shouldn't farm that neighborhood. Like the neighborhood has to have turnover. To me, it's at least 12%.
So another question for you is, I think it's how do you have lenders help with your marketing, or do you have lenders? So do you team up with lenders for your marketing?
I do not. I have in the past. I have chosen not to because I think when people pay, they expect. And I believe that if it's my marketing and I'm going to control the messaging and I want to be consistent at it, the only way that I can have complete control is if I'm in charge of it and I'm doing it. Is that the last question? Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Aruna again. Now they're talking about AI advertising. How can you incorporate that into, and where you should start? You supposed to start with a company, or how do you do it?
I think that you have to kind of explore, there's so many different AI companies out there. I will say a lot of people use ChatGPT, or like me specifically, I use Jasper for anything that I end up needing it to. So example, some of the writing that I do, I'll take in here and say like, hey, can you change the tonality to be a bit aggressive towards my negotiations with this agent, right? It'll take that. Or I can take a client's email and put it into Jasper and say like, I want to respond to this. This is the message, but I want to be a little bit more soft and understanding in the situation because as Jim said, like I can be very direct, but I'm kind of nice. And then I get to a point where I don't want to be nice, right? And so whatever that looks like for you, like if you don't write, like if I work really quickly in my email, like one word sentence as a text message, sometimes I have to say like, hey, can you overinflate this for me, right? You could use it for marketing remarks. I mean, you can write it for copy of every listing. I mean, you have to decide what you need to use it for, but it is an incredible tool if used correctly.
Do you have to pay those companies or?
Yes, nothing is free.
So is there a base?
Calling your database.
Huh?
I said nothing is free except for calling your database.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. So Bradley, do you 100% pay for staging? So this person has done some staging in the Bay Area. They shared the cost. It's like $10,000. It's becoming more popular in the valley. Sorry. So talk about how you handle staging.
Yeah. So keep in mind, I'm 8 years in. So a lot of this stuff it wasn't a light switch. It was, I had a savings account. COVID had blessed me. I got creative. I wanted to take over and I wanted to offer something different. So for me, I have 8 storage units, over 800 square feet. I have company vehicles that help with the logistical, and I have a big support team. So when I say I have 10 team members, more than half of our team is just support. So we do everything in-house, which makes it easier and more affordable and scalable. So the stuff that we use for houses, unless it's a luxury price point over $2 million, it is staged by us.
I have a quick question. You mentioned pre-listing preparation, cleaning, different things like that. I'm glad that you answered the staging question. I'm always curious, like to what extent do you carry that, or do you have any kind of like provision in your listing agreement if for some reason the seller, if you do improvements and for some reason the seller decides not to sell the property or something changes, is there any kind of provision in there related to that?
Yep. Yep. So definitely contract is in place, additional provision to the listing agreement. At the end of the day, if there is, a canceled listing, or the house is unsellable for whatever the case is, the damages are due within 48 hours, right? You're going to have to talk to your brokerage and specifically, figure out what works best for you at the end of the day. But for me, I will say 90% of my clients appreciate the fact that I have the ability to do that. And that may not be something that you can offer. A lot of brokerages provide the opportunity for a similar type of product. My thing is it's a great tool to hook in real people, right? And if we're trying to find needs and fill needs, at the end of the day, if there's a house that needs a little bit of improvements and you have a solution, they're calling you before they call the next person that doesn't have it. And I think a lot of us try to keep our service-based solutions so close to our chest because we don't want anyone to rip off and duplicate. Chelsea can tell you specifically, like I gave her my entire, she works in the same state, we're across the mountains, but at the end of the day, like no one's going to do it like me, right? And they're not me at the end of the day. But if you can employ some things that make you different and it can help a consumer, you're going to get the deal.
So you do things like cleaning, painting. To what extent do you go?
Why don't, for the sake of time, if you go to services.bradleyhansongroup.com, you can see all of the services that we offer.
Thank you.
You bet, no problem.
Thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, let's get into kind of executing your marketing plan. So I think I mentioned this earlier. At the end of the day, you have to know that you have a database and your database has to be entirely up to date. I mean, you can't do anything without that. The second thing is you have to commit to what are the things that you're going to employ, right? So for me, I like a 12-month calendar, right? I know this year on social media, it's this big ASS calendar, right? And it's huge. I love that. Like it's kind of like a little too big, but it is a great visual aid. So for me, I figure out who's going to do the job. And if you're a solo agent, it's you, or you find somebody to outsource some of this stuff if you have the budget for it. If not, you stay out in the evening and you watch a soap opera and eat some popcorn and you lick and stick until you get to the point that you can outsource it. But finding who's going to do it, how frequently, and when is it due by. So for me, I like due dates for everything. And then you have to kind of put it together in a calendar, but also like for me, I have a sample, which again, you can get, like this is a flow chart. So for me, part of my marketing plan is that I need to know like, what is the marketing effort that I'm taking by source of business, who's doing it, and how frequently are they doing it? And then the operations side of it, again, is like, who's the team member? What are the actual costs associated with it? What are we budgeting for? And then, of course, there's a finance piece of it. But you got to break it down so specifically that it's obtainable. And then you don't have to think halfway through the year, like, do I have the money for it? Am I willing to do it? Or is this something that I don't think is going to work? Like for me, you don't start anything that you're not willing to go 12 months. Like if you can't afford to farm for 12 months, you don't pick up farming. If you won't pay a videographer to do an intro and outro during your video shoots, then you don't do it, because you have to do it for 12 months to see the actual reward. This is not like, quick results. Everything takes time. So again, for me, I focus on the 12-month activities of what I'm going to commit to. Like, so example, like it's January. Every single past client is getting a printed and digital version of my housing update. Every single client, every single month gets a letter of the heart from me. It's on quick letterhead. It goes out by the 5th. I don't lick, stick, or stamp anymore, but I have done it for years. I'm happy to do it. I'm not above it. If it needs to get out, it gets out. You know, the messaging is not about real estate. It's about personal connections and things that are happening in your life. People love it. And it's probably one of the most influential pieces as far as connection. If you fight it because you feel like you don't want to be too personal and you just want to be business, you're foolish. People like authentic, deep, and genuine connections. And that's the only way that you're going to connect with people is they're going through the same stuff. I should just say the same shit that we are, right? They're having issues with their divorce or their marriages, and they're struggling with finance, or their kids are getting ready to go to college and they're emotional. Whatever you can share and find the connection, somebody in your circle is going through it. And if it creates a conversation, that is all we're trying to do. Connections and conversations. So again, I have a secondary version of kind of my marketing tracker, which is again, just like, what is the items? Like this one is like the postcard campaign, just listed, just sold, who's doing them, the number of emails that we're going to obviously send out per month, when they're sent out, you know, who's managing the social media, what does the social media look like? Like if you follow us on social media, specifically on Instagram and Facebook, you'll see that in September, we decided only video content. You just have to make a decision, right? And so we said, we're going to try it for 30 days. If it works, we're going to go. We tracked it after 30 days. We said, let's go 60. We went 90. And now we're just like only video content on social media. How many open houses are you going to commit to, right? For me, that's marketing. I see open houses as a farmer's market. There are 3 reasons you do an open house. Sign exposure, people get to meet and greet, and you find a prospective client. It's simple. If you don't show up like an actual farmer's market and you're going to host it, bring your canopy and bring your stuff, why do it? Commit to the events that you're going to do. So you may not have the budget like me or the time to do 4 events. Hone it in, right? Do 1, commit to 2, whatever the case is. Pop buys, gifting, any of that stuff, you want to make sure that you do it. So there's other versions, like this is one of Marjorie's. Again, it's okay to rip off and duplicate. This is Marjorie's version. She has a little bit more of like line items. It's kind of a checklist. So you've got overview, who's doing it, and then really you're checking boxes. If that makes you happy, that makes me happy. But it's to make sure that like you don't miss certain things, and it's kind of accountability. I think, again, at the end of the day, you have to track and measure. I mentioned that earlier. Every single thing. I meet with 2 people that are on my team that specifically do marketing every single Friday at 10:30. We go over every single weekly analytic. What was the best post? Why was it the best post? How was the engagement? You know, did we get any leads for the week? Like, we're tracking our ads. Like, you have to be committed. If you're going to spend, you got to watch. So, I think at the end of the day, again, you got to do full year, bring it to a month, bring it to a week at a glance. But whatever you do, you got to commit. If you need help with marketing, I'm a big on a book reader right now. I love to read. I like to look at my Kindle. I also like boxed wine, if anyone likes that. But there are 3 books. Expose Yourself is a great book if you want to do kind of like a SWOT analysis of your marketing. Like, does this page match this page? And what does my print look like? And are my logos the same? And is my color scheme the same? Story Brand 2.0 is an awesome marketing book. And then Gary Vee's book, Day Trading Attention, is probably the best read as far as that I read last year in marketing. I think, again, we have to invest in our business, but we also have to invest in ourselves. And it's great to get different perspectives from individuals. So those are 3 great books I recommend. That's all I got, Marge.
All right, here, I'm going to go through. So someone asked to email the marketing checklist. We will make sure that those go into everyone so that you could get copies of our checklists. So I'm going to repeat the books. The first one was Expose Yourself, Story Brand 2.0, which I have done a full Story Brand. That's pretty amazing. It's a great book. And Day Trading Attention. So those are the 3 books. Yay. I don't quite know how Bradley got that in so quickly, but if you guys look in the chat, he's got all the information there. Someone did ask also, do you have a marketing person on your team doing full-time video?
Yes. So I have a full-time videographer and a full-time photographer. Basically, they split up all of our print and digital strategies. So again, I had to scale there. So when I got to 2022, I decided, okay, it wasn't budget friendly for me to pay for a person that's shooting personal professional content and then somebody actually shooting the listings. Like I need to hire that in. And so that was one thing that I made as a P&L based decision, is to bring that in-house. So I have 2 full-time people that cater to our entire marketing plan, which is why I'm able to provide the level of marketing today. It was strategic, it was financial, and it was all about how can I continue to scale and implement. And so at the end of the day, they do everything at the brand full time.
You grew into this. So everyone that's listening right now, because I think we have a lot of people that'll come on here and they'll be like, oh boy. So I want to stress, he did not always have this. So for all of you right now that are like, oh my gosh, listen, you can get a VA. So I just got my first VA. I've been testing it out before I talked about it too much. A marketing VA is $1,200 a month. And that person is cranking out. I cannot keep them busy enough. Every material, if, for example, if you get any material for Bradley, now you send it to the VA, literally the next day it's done. They do those social marketing plans, they will do videos, they'll edit for you, they'll do all of this work. So you can share it with someone in your office if 1,200 is still too much, but there are many ways you guys can do this. So you can bring in a videographer. I will tell you, our photographer that shoots our houses will do little snippet videos for us if we show up at the house. They just charge a little extra. So you need to be creative in figuring this out. So if it's just you, you have the marketing calendar, you find a VA, you share someone, you reach out to photographers, what can you figure out? So, and you will build up to where Bradley is. So it took him a while to get there. Now, I'm going to stop because one person's asked twice. So Matt, I got you. Matt's question was, what local industry related folks in your area do you partner with to offset some of the costs of marketing? Or is it just 100% you? And you make, of course, relationships with lenders, title. Yeah, you are very strong in your relationships, but do you partner to offset any costs?
I don't at this current moment, but I have, right? So, I think again, it would be so easy right now. A lot of us are struggling with buyer business, but I think there's a ton of lenders that will take the time and get on camera with you. So if you look at some of my buyer's broker and Michaela Elliott, one of our lenders, they do content every single week, right? You see 2 of them, they're talking about just different topics and providing value. And so I imagine any lender would be willing to split the costs, right? Whether that be, to be honest with you, the best way to do it is just buy very simple equipment, right? And if you need a list, right, you can look online. You can also ask, I'm happy to share of like a starter kit for doing video, right? But it doesn't have to be commercial production grade. It can be just an iPhone with a great mic and good lighting. Anything is better than what you're not doing. Right. Yeah. Again, I did selfies before selfies were cool. And then I had to grow. Right. And like, you have to just kind of work your way up to it. If you can't take a selfie at an open house, you don't buy a mic and a light kit. Right. Like you got to ease yourself into it and walk before you can run. Like, but I know like Janess, like she would totally do a video with me any day of the week. If you know what I mean, she would do it 100%. So whether it be financial planners as a realtor, whether it be a lender, maybe it's a tax consultant as we get into tax season, like find the need of value, whatever's going on in that month. And maybe you can't do a video every week, but you can do one a month. And it's theme about what's happening that month. You got to find the plan and the tactic, but just focus on consistently completing the assignment.
You are 100% correct. And yes, VA is virtual assistant. Sorry. So VA is a virtual assistant you can find. And again, like Brad said, so I've watched his evolution, right, over time. And so you guys that have been on this call, I want you to think about it's baby steps. So first, like what are simple things? You can Google yourself, go find what you look like on homes.com, realtor.com. What is your Google? Like if someone Googles you, what do they see? What do you need to update? What do you need to clean up? Those are free things. Start there. Like what does your website presence look like? Is your picture look like you or are you 30 years ago? And then if you say, okay, I want to start an email campaign, you start one, right? You pick one. I'm going to take care of my PCs and my past clients, and I'm going to send one thing a month. Or I'm going to start the home valuation. I commit that in 2025, every one of my clients will get a home evaluation. Yes, we can share systems for that. You can sign up for HomeBot, whatever it may be. Then you say print marketing. If you're doing none, start with your past clients. Then you work up into potentially farming. But you have to really think about if you've never had an event, you start with a small event. So he has worked up to this after years of implementation and putting things together. His team has grown significantly. That has worked because he also lists a lot of houses, right? So you will baby step into this. But if you have no plan, right? So it's mid-January now. If you don't have a 2025 marketing plan, let's start there. Let's start with what do I need to commit to? I'm going to do one thing for past clients, right? Maybe I'm going to do one thing here. I'm going to do one thing on social media. If you're doing none, start with Instagram or Facebook. They work well together, right? So the problem is I think we all have nothing and then we try to do everything. So I want you to really full focus on what are you going to commit to is exactly right. Like, please don't say, I'm going to start a video campaign and you do one, you never do it again. So consistency, consistency, consistency. But you've got to be out there. And, and the great thing is Bradley's coaching with us now. He is going to teach what he knows. We're going to be here to help all of you. But I think consistency is all of it, right? And you've got to commit and say, I'm going to do this year. I got to get out more and not being a secret agent. So Bradley, thank you. Thank you for doing this today. You guys, thank you for being here. But don't just leave this call and move on. Say, okay, I'm going to commit to, right? I'm going to commit to getting a calendar started. I'm going to commit to getting things taken care of. I'm going to work with someone. I'm going to find a virtual system. I'm going to team up with someone in my office. I'm going to, come up with a strategy. Let's start there and then move on. Okay. So then we're going to keep growing and implementing. And one day we will sell 200 houses like Bradley. Thanks, guys.